welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, and welcome to the HMO Awards. I've got the dubious privilege of kicking off as speaker this afternoon. And first of all, I just want to thank Van and Helen, everyone from COHO and everyone involved in putting on this magnificent event, which is not only been obviously a huge amount of work, but is also, I think, a really important thing to have in our industry. Raising standards across the HMO industry is something that I, and no doubt many of you, are absolutely passionate about. And also to raise the reputation as well. You know, HMO landlords have traditionally had the whole Young Ones Association, negative images, and hopefully most of us in this room here today are here to try and raise standards and reputation across the HMO industry, and also the awards to recognise that all the magnificent work that so many people, despite the things that are written in the press, are actually doing for tenants and for property industry across. So my name's Caroline Pattinson. I have a co-living, shared living portfolio in Chester, in Cheshire. I've had that for 27 years before properties were even called HMOs. We didn't have licenses and so on. But my background is that I'm a banker. So being a banker and a landlord, you know, you tend to get shot for being both of those things. So take your pick. I worked for NatWest for 25 years and I got into property, hate that phrase. When I was about 23, I was a mortgage advisor for NatWest at a time when buy-to-let was just becoming a thing. And I was earning a very small amount of money, working a lot of hours and being chewed up and spat out by a big corporate, helping other people to get onto the property ladder. They come back 6 months later, oh, Caroline, that was great. Can you do me some finance for my next property? And then one day I sat there and thought, why am I sitting here helping other people get into property, earning all this money? You know, they're just ordinary people like me, so maybe I could do it. And so I trotted out on my lunchtime and bought this property here, one of these terraced houses, many, you know, landlords will have done, £50,000. I thought I was absolutely terrified at the time. I had no idea how I was going to pay the mortgage on such an expensive property of 50 grand. I've still got this property today. And thought I'd better rent it by the room, because I really quickly realised that renting it to a family was not going to cover the bills. And so I was an accidental landlord from the point of view of getting into property. Initially, I had an attitude, like many people, it was an investment, it was a pension, it was some money on the side, it would be nice, you know, for the future. I ran a bog standard HMO portfolio for over 20 years, and I had all of the bog standard problems that come along with that. Voids, viewings, druggies, you know, rent arrears, hassle, phone calls at all times of night, breaking up fights, you know, and the things that can come along not always, but when they do, many of us will know what a headache that is, with running an average HMO. They were okay. My main job was in banking, these were on the side. 7 years ago, I left NatWest with a sizable redundancy package, and I decided to look at what to do next. I looked at the current experience of spare room and people in shared living, and I was deciding whether to sell my properties or really go for it. The result was this. I had a look at the customer experience in Tenants and what the choice was out there. I looked at the pricing, the standards, and I was absolutely horrified. I'm going to tell you about a current experience I have with a friend of mine whose son is Will. Will is 23, he's graduated, he's got his first job, and he's moving to a big city in the south of England. He's worked his ass off to get this job, he's not the most confident of lads, and they are currently having an absolute nightmare. So this is a nice young man with a qualification, a university degree, a good salary, and he is currently thinking at the moment that he won't be able to accept the job that he has worked so hard for all of these years, because right now he cannot get a single room. A single room. He's sent off 120 inquiries. I helped him write his profile. As a landlord, I know what I want people to see. You know, you don't want someone going, there's not room still available. You want, hi, my name is Will. I'm qualified as this. I've got a job. I've got my deposit ready. Here's my moving date. I'm clean, tidy, and respectable. He's had 3 responses. The quality is appalling. You have no idea whether these landlords exist, let alone who your housemates are. And the prices and the desperation. This young man is nearly in tears. He said, I've worked all of this. I just thought getting a job was going to be the be-all and end-all. At the moment, I can't accept a job because I can find nowhere to live. This is a live situation. This should not happen. This should not be the case in our industry, and it shouldn't be the case for any people, but particularly my passion is young professionals. What I was already doing about this was trying to create a totally different experience. These are just examples. I've just taken some off my iPhone of properties that I've done. Personally, I spend about £100,000 on a refurb. I take it back to brick. I design it with a mix of 50-50 en-suites and shared bathrooms typically, and I make it beautiful. You don't have to spend that much money. My older properties are not that glamorous. They're still nice. They're still, oh yes, I'd be happy to go and live there myself if I was 23, or your child. Absolutely. You don't have to make things look like this, but I've got the selection of properties which are like this, and they go like hotcakes. But for me, it's all about the tenant experience. I don't call my tenants tenants, I call them customers. I think our industry is quite difficult. What do you call yourself? I struggled for years with this. When I was a bank manager, I was a bank manager. Everyone knows what that is. But I'm a landlord, a property investor, a property developer, a letting agent, general dog's body. Sometimes I'm a cleaner. You know, we have to do all of those things in our industry. But this is what I'm really trying to achieve, and this is what I am so passionate about. For me, when I wanted to set and going into full-time into property, it was about how can I have pride, how can I have passion, how can I have purpose, and how can I have profit? You know, I was not about to give up a very successful, highly paid corporate job to then not go and earn a lot of money, but I wanted to do it ethically, and I wanted to do it in such a way that it helped people and made a difference to people's lives. These are some unfiltered pictures that I have taken of my tenants. They're not staged, they're my real tenants. I take my tenants out twice a year. There's about 50. I pay for them to go out to a local bar, so I'm supporting local businesses, and I pay for them to go to typically a cocktail masterclass. You'll see that they've got a little name badge on there, so anybody who wants to come along, I just say all my houses happen to be in the same area. This might not work for everybody, and it might not be something that everybody wants to do. But twice a year, I do a summer and a winter social, and I pay for everybody to go out. It costs me £1,000, something like this. The goodwill and the feel-good factor that I get back from that is incredible. I'm going to talk to you about Lee. Lee in this picture here has mild autism. He's 28, and his only surviving family was his father, who died of cancer. Lee was thinking about getting his own flat. He's on 38 grand a year. He could afford a flat. Not an amazing one, but he could afford his own flat. He's an introverted kind of guy, and I persuaded him to come out on the social. He came out and he said to me, Caroline, thank you so much. He said, I've just been around people. He said, I haven't been out of my room for ages, and I was thinking about getting my own flat, but I know that if I do, the type of person I am, I've lost my father, I will be so depressed I could be suicidal. You know, these things are real. I run a passionate anti-loneliness, positive mental health strategy through all of my properties because we are in a position to make a difference to people's lives. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You don't have to, the swanky decor is great. You know, I'm getting rents in a northern town on a par with Edinburgh, Reading, Oxford and London. And I am here to make a profit. I was on Van's podcast last week. He went, well, is this like a bit of a charity thing for you? Absolutely not. I am here to make a very substantial £200,000 a year plus profit, which I'm doing, but I'm doing it in such a way that is ethical, that people are choosing to do it. They're choosing to have these things for their mental health, for company and lifestyle. Ellie, in the picture on the left, these are girls hanging out in one of my houses. I go for 50-50. She had such a terrible experience as a student at a university. She was in a house where it was damp, the landlord never came, things were wrong, and she had such a terrible, one of the students left, he moved a 64-year-old taxi driver into a house with with female students. She didn't feel safe. It wasn't that he actually did anything to her, but he was standing outside the bathroom, and she had a mental breakdown to the point that in her third year of university, she had to move back home. She was hospitalised with depression and mental health issues. And she came to me and she said, I really need to move out. I'm fine. I went back to university, finished my degree, got a new job, moving to Chester, where I operate. And I could see that there was an issue. And I was like, talk to me about your concerns. And she told me about what had happened. I was like, yeah, I can feel that. I said, okay, I'm going to restore your house. I'm not only going to give you an amazing place to live, it's expensive, but you will have everything if you want it. I will make sure that you're with people where I will restore your faith in people and in shared living. Ellie's been in that house 18 months. You can see, you know, that is not a stage picture. I was there, I said, girls, do you mind me just taking a picture? Because you're just sat here having a coffee together, but this is what everything that I am passionate about, that I embody. That girl is now moving on with her life. She's leaving soon. She said, you've given me the confidence to go out, and my faith in people is restored, and she can now move to another city. This is another snapshot of some of my tenants. Again, this was just me taking a picture on my iPhone. This is a genuine picture. I can tell you the story of all of those people when they were out in the pub. They're all from different houses, but they're there making friends. So we're all property investors in this room, probably all we have an interest. So we're all interested in numbers. What's the profit? What's the margins? Is putting in all of this effort actually good for business? Hell yes. When I was running average HMOs, and I can tell you this with the confidence, that I ran this as a standard HMO portfolio. Nothing wrong with it. Beige carpets, magnolia wood chip, cleaned once a month. It was fine. So these are the same properties. And some of them I've spent a good 100 grand on refurbing on my new ones that I've acquired because I continue to expand. And some of them I've just tarted up and given an interior design makeover. And I haven't spent as much money, but the ethos is the same. These are the spare room data, which is obviously the most reliable data. We get very little data in our industry. This is spare room data from Q2 2022. The average rent in Chester in my local area is £459, and in the northwest is £479, something like that. I'm getting an average of £600 a room, and in some rooms I'm getting up to £825 a room. This is comparable with the property hotspots around the UK, and I'm in a northern town, which isn't particularly glamorous, and it's not particularly well known. This won't work everywhere, but my point is, comparably, as with any business, with whatever it is you do, if you look after your customers, you pay attention to detail, you care and you have the structures in place, your profits, as mine are, can be a good 30% over and above your competitors. I've no voids. I haven't had rent arrears for over 3 years. I have a waiting list. I very rarely do personal viewings because they're a pain in the ass. And if we do all of this and communicate with people, you don't need to. I also have a Google page and a Facebook page. I should be on Instagram, but I'm not got really around to that because I'm a bit old-fashioned. But this is you won't be able to read this, but this is I've got many, many, many 5-star reviews. These are tenant reviews. And this is just epitomises what I wanted to achieve. Having rented for years all over the UK and in other countries, I can honestly say that Caroline is the most supporting and caring landlord I've ever had. My room was redecorated and deep cleaned before moving in, and she left me a lovely lamp and some plants. That's a nice to do. I could feel that was something she'd appreciate. You don't have to do it. Since moving in, I've had regular contact with her and know that if I ever needed anything, she would be on hand right away. These tenants never contact me, but the fact they know that I'm there or a member of my team, I've got a number of staff, is there is really, really important. When viewing properties, I was becoming increasingly disheartened by the standard that was available for my budget. Finding Caroline was such a relief, as her properties were the first that I viewed that seemed like somewhere that were respected, very important, and homely, also very important. The house is well loved and cared for, and this is the first time I have experienced a shared house that feels like a home. This is the first time I have experienced a shared house that feels like a home, and my work here is done. It's not done because it's always moving, but that for me is the epitome of how to run a really successful, profitable, and largely stress-free business, because it can be an extremely stressful industry, as we know, where you're actually making money ethically and changing the well-being of my customers. So there we are. That's what I came to talk about today.